Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Backbone Podcast, where common sense still makes sense in a world that is sick and getting sicker. And today, while we comic book fans or superhero fans or Superman fans argue back and forth about whether this latest film uh, was any good, or whether it's making money, or whether it's going to lose money, or whether they're going to fire people, or whether they're going to do any of the crazy stuff that we comic geeks or movie fans argue about. The world, the debaucherous world that we live in, just keeps moving on. And I think the reason why we have so much entertainment, football, baseball, movies, podcasts, all this stuff, is to distract us from the madness that is surrounding us, that is creeping into our, or at least trying to creep into our lives every day. Today, well, not today, but earlier this week, we found out that FS1 has canceled 3 of its shows on its network. Now, people may say, oh, well, the show sucked and they cancel these things. Cancellation, if you know anything about television, cancellations don't come easy. It's not a matter of some guy saying, hey, this show sucks, I don't like it, we're going to cancel it. Cancellations are very, very expensive. And they take time to work out. You have contracts to work out. You have time slots to work out. Today, Fox Sports 1 canceled 3 of its shows that take up 6 hours of its programming. That is a tremendous amount of programming to fill. One show is called Speak. The other show is called Breakfast Ball. And then you have The Facility. Shows like First Things First and The Herd with what the hell is Colin Cowherd, they are still in production. But these 3 shows here that kick off Fox Sports 1, they're gone. And we know what the reasons are. We've heard all the backstage drama that's going on there, especially with the pictured woman here named Joy Taylor. Some of the personalities and big names involved in these shows wouldn't have been on air anymore. Wouldn't have been on air anymore had it not been for these terrible accusations and scandals that are going on behind the scenes. Now, Fox Sports 1, of course, is going to say, well, the ratings stink, and that's why we got rid of them. The ratings for none of these shows are great. But it was the scandals that embarrassed the network. That's the final straw. And for months, Fox Sports 1 was trying to figure out how to maneuver and get out of these contracts and try to fill space. The first casualty is the biggest casualty, and her name is Joy Taylor, and she's officially out. Her name has surfaced in multiple lawsuits involving the network, so it's likely been a tumultuous time for her over the last year. The other guy, her co-host, a guy who was involved in the scandal as well. He was on another show, Emmanuel Ocho. He spoke out on Twitter, and he was a former NFL player, not great, but former NFL player. And he says, and I quote, "In sports, when you're not good enough, you get cut. In TV, when you're not good enough, you get canceled. I'm not going to try and come to y'all with some big announcement soon. Stay tuned, because I don't actually know what's coming. But what I do know is I trust God." Well, that's the safe thing to say. Another guy that you may not know of very well is a guy named Craig Carton. Now, Craig Carton used to be on New York sports radio. He's one of these bombastic guys who, would say outrageous things just to get people to listen, people to react. Many people believe he was on a sports station called WFAN, and many people believe that a return to WFAN is not out of the question. WFAN has dominated the market with Tiki Barber joining Evan Roberts, who used to be partners with Craig Carton on Afternoon Drive. When you hear the word dominance, you have to take it with a grain of salt because they don't have much sports competition. But if you look at the competition, like news programs or even music stations, WFAN is getting their teeth kicked in. So what they do is they categorize. They say we're the number one sports station, which is probably true. But other than that, they're not doing very well either. And the reason why they're not doing very well is because you're not getting information anymore. You're getting these morons that rant and rave how this player sucks and you should trade this one and fire that one. And there's just bombastic audacity. It's just terrible. And FS1 and ESPN are the kings of that. Now, Joy Taylor, of course, she was involved in a major scandal. A major scandal that, of course, involved SEX. Supposedly, she was outrageous, and she hosted a show called Speak that featured co-hosts Keyshawn Johnson, and he was an NFL player, and an NBA player named Paul Pierce. And it was reported that on July 14th, the show had been canceled. The sources also stated that the network cut the other two morning shows that we mentioned. Now, Fox has yet to share an official statement as to why the shows were canceled. A lot of outlets are reporting that the shows were dropped because of their ratings. The famous quote when something like this happens is, "It struggled to find its audience." Well, when a woman is on TV and she's showing her cans and she's speaking like as if she's a former, NFL player, an NBA player, or Major League Baseball player who knows what it's like to play hurt or go through a slump, or they have to toughen up. And then it comes out that she's sleeping around with, a multitude of different guys. You lose credibility and people don't want to watch you. Fox Sports, of course, has been quiet about this whole thing. They have not released any comments about these shows being off the air. Taylor, of course, has not released an official statement either, but she continues to post on Instagram and all these other social media sites, her in bikinis, her in dresses, and so on. Now, here's what we know. We know these shows were canceled. We know that there was backstage drama that went on. Taylor began hosting this sports show called Speak in September of 2022, which frequently included NFL players and NBA players as panelists. In addition to having her usual panelist, Taylor featured several NFL players like Michael Vick and Tony Gonzalez and all that other good stuff. And they would debate sports topics. The program originally premiered in 2016 with our good friend Jason Whitlock and Colin Cowherd. And they featured different personalities, and it was a sports show. They Whitlock and Cowherd, no matter what you may think of those two, they provided information about sports. They kept it about sports. But over the next several years, the original co-hosts left the show and eventually were replaced by this dramatic trio that would yell and scream and get all ghetto and not provide you with any information but opinion. And I don't need to hear their opinion. I want to hear information regarding players, teams, coaches, etc. You weren't getting that. And people get sick of it. And let me tell you something. No guy, and men are usually the ones who watch these shows, no guy wants to see some chick and hear some woman's voice ranting and raving about players not playing hard or players not performing well or players not doing this or players not doing that. The reason why we listen to sports radio or talk radio or watch shows like this is to get away from women. We don't want to see some chick out on there with her cans out ranting and raving like a lunatic. Keyshawn Johnson hasn't shared a comment either. Paul Pierce, I heard, posted a video on his Instagram stories. He's on vacation currently, and he said, and I quote, "God is a good man, really. I appreciate all of y'all." I can't stand this term, y'all. Where did this thing come from? Why does everybody use it? I appreciate all of y'all supported me in the last year and the show. It's all love. Who knows what the hell that means? Now, the talk show's cancellation came 6 months after Taylor was named in a lawsuit against former Fox Sports programming executive Charlie Dixon, who was fired in April of 2025. In this lawsuit, Fox Sports hairstylist, what's her name? Nasheen Faraji, accused Dixon of groping her at Taylor's birthday party in 2017. Okay, so this is 8 years ago that this hairstylist, who nobody knows, nobody cares about, claims at a birthday party, Charlie Dixon, who is a sports producing veteran. He's produced a lot of shows. He's been an executive producer for a ton of shows. She claims that he groped her. Were there any witnesses? Did she file a lawsuit the day after it happened? No. She filed this lawsuit after she got fired from Fox Sports. And Faraji claimed that Taylor dismissed her allegations and told her to, and quote, get over it, according to the complaint. This hairstylist further alleged that Taylor had an affair with Dixon, which is probably true, which Taylor denies vehemently. Despite the denials, Taylor was pulled from her on-air show for 2 weeks. And the claims that were set forth, Miss Taylor claims, were devoid, and I quote, devoid of merit and appear to have been strategically framed to create unwarranted publicity rather than to seek legitimate redress, said her spokesman in February of 2025. Now, amid this lawsuit, Taylor explained that she was renegotiating her contract, which was set to expire this summer, around now. So this all came to a head. Fox Sports, FS1, I should say, bide their time. They dealt with the storm, and the minute these contracts come up, they just get rid of you. That's how corporations work. The facility was also a sports entertainment talk show that this guy, Emmanuel Ocho, developed in September of 2024. He hosted the show alongside Chase Daniel and LaShawn McCoy, former NFL players. And, of course, his show, as we said, was canceled too. McCoy had a candid response on X saying, "Damn, fired on my day off." Well, oh, quote unquote, "Damn, fired on my day off." Well, put me on the trading block. So he took it with a little bit more levity. The Breakfast Bowl show, which I don't think anybody cared for or watched. I didn't. I don't watch any of these shows. I'm at work. But similar to the facility, this show had been on television screens for less than a year, and it just never had a chance, and it suffered cancellation. The sports and entertainment talk show starred Craig Carton, Danny Parkins, and Mark Shareth, a former Denver Bronco. None of the hosts released statements on social media about the cuts. However, just hours before this story was published, Parkins wrote on X about how, quote unquote, pumped he was to return to the studio after a few weeks off in the summer. This all, of course, is more to do with the sex scandals and the lawsuits than probably ratings. Because none of these shows have great ratings. If you look at the ESPN ratings, they're abominable. They're absolutely abominable. But there isn't a controversy that is embarrassing the company, the corporation, the network. So as long as you behave yourself, as long as you don't rock the boat, you'll be fine. But the minute some waitress or some hairdresser or some, masseuse comes out and says that you exposed yourself, you touched her, you did this, you did that, unless that show is kicking ass, and even then sometimes if the show is doing very, very well, they will get rid of you because networks do not want to be embarrassed. Corporations don't want to deal with lawsuits. They'd rather just cut ties with you, wait 6 months for the dust to settle, and then somebody else will rehire you. That's what they do. They recycle all of these people. Case in point, our friend Shannon Sharpe. Shannon Sharpe has been involved in so many terrible things recently that I mean he's just over and over again accusers accusing him over and over again of sexual misconduct, sexual assaults, and it's spiraling out of control. And people people just say, "Hey, he's a celebrity. We'll still watch him." How can anybody watch and view anybody who will do the things that this guy's been accused of? It's beyond me. Sharpe has been accused of so much nonsense. On Wednesday in court, the attorney representing Sharpe's sexual accuser, who is, I guess, still nameless, didn't show up to court in Las Vegas, where the court hearings are taking place. Tony Busby, of course, is the attorney for these women, and he's basically an ambulance chaser. And Busby told Pro Football Talk that he and Sharpe's lawyer have agreed to postpone this trial until July, hearing later in July, and he apologized to the court. Now, what does this all have to do with Shannon Sharpe's career? Well, he's going to probably, once these allegations come out, he too will be fired. He's had a list of a whole road of indecent behavior. He got pushed out of CBS. He got pushed out of FS1. He's going to be pushed out of ESPN, and all because of the same reasons. Sex with interns, sex with waitresses, leaking sex tapes here and there. When does it stop? When can these people just behave themselves? When do we finally just get some decent people on TV that we can just enjoy and listen to their banter? I mean, it's just sickening. It's just sickening. And sometimes the Superman stuff was bad enough of how bad it was in my view, but this stuff is just even worse. Now, the other news that we were missing outside of the Joy Reid and Shannon Sharp stuff was the whole Trump wetting the bed by trying to wipe away the Epstein files. Now, the Epstein files won't be coming out. And there was a vote recently of a committee, a Congress 7-5 vote, denying the exposure of these files and of these names and of these lists. And you got to figure, people are asking, well, why won't they let these lists come out? Why won't Trump let these lists come out? We have Dan Bongino, deputy director of the FBI, threatening to quit. We have his boss, this Patel guy, head of the FBI. He's threatening to quit unless Trump fires Pam Bondi, who is the attorney general, who's the one that's suppressing this list and all this Jeffrey Epstein stuff. But guess who's telling her to do this? Donald Trump probably is. Why is Donald Trump not wanting this list to come out? Because he's probably on it. That's why. And we'll do some investigating and digging into that tomorrow night. But we now know the real deal about Donald Trump and about all these friends of his and all the people that he's protecting, because that's what this list is. That's what the suppression of this list is. It's the protection of his buddies. It's the protection of these donors, these guys who give, these people who give so much money that they have the power and the wherewithal to say, hey, if this list goes away, your next Senate race is covered. Your next congressional race is covered. If you decide to leave politics, I'll put you on a board somewhere. You'll make $3 million a year. You don't have to even show up. That's how this game works, because that's what politics is. It's a game. It's a dirty game. It's the dirtiest game that you'll ever get involved in. But if you play your cards right and you sell your soul, you'll be fine. You won't be fine when you go to heaven, of course, but you'll be fine in Washington. So that was the rant for tonight. This was an impromptu podcast. I just wanted to do a little rant on what was going on to catch up on all the garbage that we're all seeing. But thank you again for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. Be careful out there, my friends. Satan is always busy. Be a man. Have a backbone, because masculinity and common sense are worth standing up for. We'll see you later.